Okay, so again, welcome to everyone who is here. My name is Kristen Hoffman. I am the director of the Autism Center at Misericordia. On behalf of myself and Sandra Kirchner, who is the director of the Autism Hub in Hazleton, we wanted to have this webinar with Jason Davenport. He is the director of behavioral interventions at the Graham Academy and is going to speak to us about practical responses to behavior. A special welcome to all of those educators who are part of our Autism Educators Support Alliance. If you are not a part of that group, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to put up that information so that you can join our Facebook page and be part of that discussion. So with that, I'm going to ask Jason to get us started.
Evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm sorry, Jason.
Yes.
One more quick second. If you have any questions during the webinar, everyone can ask their questions within the chat box, and I will be keeping track of those questions, and I will make sure that Jason gets to all of them at the end of the webinar. Sorry about that, Jason. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. So again, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint so that we can all stay focused here. And just as I was, let me get this down here. Here we go, slideshow. So just as we were talking about, I was talking about this idea of practical responses to behavior because, I mean, as we know, there are a lot of people or a lot of different theories on how to respond, different ideas about human behavior and how to best predict it or how to treat it, things of that nature. But really what I wanted to focus on was some of the things that I think separates your veteran staff from your more novice staff. And these basically 3 habits that, when practiced regularly, make you more effective, regardless of the population you're working with, regardless of the functioning level of the participants you have, things of that nature. Whether this is children, adults, your partner, I think all these things, when you apply these 3 principles and distill them, it just makes you more effective in dealing with people as a whole. So just a little bit about me, because some of you know me. I know there's some people here from the Graham Academy, so welcome. And but just in case, a little bit about me is currently I'm the director of behavior intervention at the Graham Academy. I've been doing this for about 15 years. Honestly, I'm sure if we have any vets in the room, I think the time just kind of all blurs together. So give or take 15 years, that's how many years I've been in this. I have a bachelor's in psychology at Wilkes. I have a master's in marriage and family therapy, and I've been married for about 9 years, so I'm putting that degree to good use. So she's still with me, so that works. I'm doing something. I'm also an instructor for safe crisis management, to the point where I actually worked for the company for a few months, where I travel the country. I went from the Midwest to the mid-Atlantic coast. I've been as far as Missouri, all the way up to Vermont, teaching in various situations, schools, detention centers, people from all walks of life, and it was quite an experience. I'm also a Bureau of Autism FBA certified trainer. And I know they're changing their format and all that, but I do have that under my belt. But I said that I previously worked at SCM and traveled the country because, well, that's one of the reasons why I went back. That is my daughter. She is 14. We adopted her when she was 12. She's from the Philippines. And, there were a host of issues that came with that. She had a background, lived on the streets. No share of trauma, but she's the apple of my eye. I love her to death, and she's doing really well. But what I say that to say that the things I'm about to talk to you about are what I apply in my life with my family and my daughter, and also how I encourage the staff at the Graham Academy to treat the children, as well as how I try to model and interact with the students I work with every day. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why, I was traveling. I was on the road for probably 3 weeks out of the month. And then I went and found out that my wife's pregnant. And yes, it's mine. So, but no, so we have one daughter and then another on the way. So, it was important to stay with the family. So that's about me. Let's get into it. So most people would probably save their most important piece for last. I think that's what you're supposed to do, but I'm not most people, and I kind of do my own thing. But I'm going to give you what I think is the most important of these 3 points first, only because this concept intersects with everything else. So when we talk about the other two, and when we unpack that and discuss, I think it's important that we know what it is that really matters and what we're supposed to be striving to do. So that's why I'm giving you what I think is the strongest point first, because I want you to interact with that and I want you to make connections to it, because it is all related, and especially this first concept. So 3 things. And what I said to Kristen in the beginning was that I recognize that there's probably people here from a wide variety of backgrounds, experiences, working with populations of all kinds. I think I saw some parents in the chat. So again, it's a very diverse group of people. So what I'm trying to do is give you general concepts, or 3 general concepts, that you can use your orientations or your theoretical bends to make that yours. So that's the idea. That's the theory behind it all. On that, let's get started. So 3 priorities, 3 things that we want to work on. And the first, and I would argue the most important, is make the situation safer. Effective people that work with children, make the situation safer. Okay, now I use that term very carefully. I didn't say safe, because safe implies that it's a single action, and then after it's safe, it's done. Safer means that you are constantly on the lookout and you are constantly trying to improve the situation. And when I talk about safety, I'm not just speaking of physical safety or things of that nature. I mean, when you talk about the sanctuary model, or any of the trauma research, they'll talk about this idea of emotional safety or moral safety or things of that nature. But that really, when children are around us, they should feel safe in all parts of it. And I'm going to borrow very heavily from Dr. Karen Purvis, because she made this concept, and I say it at work, and I shout it to the rooftops because I use it all the time at home and especially at work. That Dr. Karen Purvis, she's the author of The Connected Child, and she coins this term. She calls it felt safety. And basically what she will say is that, a fearful, mistrustful child has very different priorities than a child who feels safe, who feels, attached, trusting, things of that nature. And she actually feels so strongly about this that this chapter in her book is free online, that she has made this available in PDF for free. So people can read chapter 4 of her book at no charge, because she wants this concept out there for professionals and parents to look at. But I really like what she talks about, because she says that fear will bully your child into poor behavior. And how many times do we walk into a situation, or do we see a child who really what's happening is they don't understand what's going on? They, maybe something changed. Maybe they're not understanding, a sudden change in a schedule, or maybe someone came in that reminded them of something, or they lost something. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're thirsty, maybe they're tired, they're sick. Whatever it is, there are plenty of situations and plenty of variables in an environment that could prompt a fear response from a child. And as staff, it's up to us to project the opposite of that, is to project this idea that the adults are here, the adults value you, the adults are in control, not in control of the children, but in control of the situation. It's like having a fence or a boundary where it's like, you're here and you're safe. Nothing's coming in that I'm not going to allow, and it's going to be fine. So it's this idea of we have to project that sense of safety when we're around our children. And it's funny because, you know, all throughout my career, there's been fire drills are one in particular where, you know, we have some children who are very scared, and, you know, they're, you know, it's loud, it's sudden, you know, it's the very definition of everything we try not to do in our regular day-to-day basis. We usually try to like provide information ahead of time to children, but obviously with a fire drill, you can't really do that. So all of a sudden, boom, there it is. Everything is happening, and some children just freeze. And I've been in several situations where, you know, because of the relationship I've built with the child, because of the time I've spent with them, I've just walked in the classroom, looked at them, said, hey, stand up, let's go, sir. And boom, they're up, they're out, because they know I'm going to take care of them. So I want us to take a few moments to reflect. And the first question I have is a rhetorical question. And then the second question I actually want you to interact with. But think about this. And again, this is rhetorical for right now. Think about the person that you go to when you feel like your life is unbalanced. Think about who, maybe even growing up. Think about that person that you either turn to when life is getting hectic to kind of ground you or keep you sane, or that person that you drew a lot of strength from or inspiration from growing up. And as that person or persons comes into your head, now I want you to think about, what did that person do? What types of qualities did they have? And what kind of personality traits did you see in them? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to see some pretty consistent stuff throughout what's happening. So I kind of broke it down that I believe that really when it comes down to is children respond very well to adults who are calm, who are consistent, and who are confident. Okay? And that all comes with time and with, you know, I liken it all to, like, you know, they call it therapeutic rapport, you know, a therapeutic relationship, or just relationship building in general. But I liken it to a bank where, you know, if you just go to the bank and keep making withdrawals, eventually you're going to run out of money. But in order to make withdrawals, you actually have to put money in a bank account. You actually have to put something in. And so when you are working with children, you have to find those positive moments. You have to find those moments where you can connect with them. You know, at work, I love it on Fridays, or even gym. I love gym classes. So you get to go in there, you know, throw a ball around with the kids, play with them. One, I get to show them that, you know, sometimes I'll deliberately make mistakes, you know, or like I'll miss a catch, or I'll miss a throw or whatever. One, to show them that this is how an adult handles disappointment. But it's also a great opportunity to show, you know, to give a lot of praise, to smile, to laugh, to show that like connection there. And I'm putting in money. I'm putting money in the bank, so that when I have to respond to a child who is, you know, out of sorts, or I'm asking them to trust me on something, you know, I have something in there to do that. I don't know. I mean, when I was new in my career, and it's a very staggering thing, but when you look at most of staff interactions, about 80%, they say, of staff interactions are actually negative, or are directions, which require the least amount of thought. But if all the staff or all people do when they talk to a child is like a correction or a redirection or something of that nature, why do they want to listen? If every time a staff opens their mouth, it's going to be something negative, well, then the children learn that, well, it's not someone I want to be around. But if my, you know, it's called differential reinforcement, at least in the safe crisis management curriculum, where they say it takes about 16 positive comments to counteract one criticism. And if you think about it, like, if you had a good day at work and you had 99 good things said about you, everyone was saying 99 good things, but there was one criticism someone levied at you, and you go home, without fail, I can probably predict for every one of you, what are you going to be thinking about? you're going to be thinking about the criticism, because we're just drawn to that for some reason. But I think what we have to do is we have to show and we have to do what we want these children to know. So like, I'm a very firm believer in walking the walk, in that if I'm going, like for instance, at home, I stress, control over emotions. I stress that it's okay to feel feelings and it's okay to express feelings, but you must do them appropriately. And so if I'm saying that to my daughter, I better be somebody who's doing it too and showing her. You know, at work or when I'm working with the kids at the Graham, if I am telling them that it's important to value other people, well, then I better be valuing others when I'm talking with them. When I tell them it's important to be responsible, I had best be showing responsibility myself, because to be honest, it doesn't matter. I'm convinced it doesn't matter, especially the children who are nonverbal. Just because they're nonverbal doesn't mean they don't pay attention. As a matter of fact, they pay attention far more than, because they have, you know, all they can do is listen. All they can do is watch. And I'm telling you right now that some of those children are masters of human behavior. If only we can get into what they actually have experienced, they are really good at reading, and they can tell the genuine people from those who are, you know, just kind of, I quote unquote, fake it till you make it, which I disagree with as a principle, because I think that really adults shouldn't be faking anything. They should be sincerely believing in what they're doing, and they should be sincerely believing in what they're doing. And then that's an outpour in your behavior. Like your attitudes and your thoughts are an outpour of your behavior. So I think we need to practice and model those proper perspectives. And then we convey the correct message. If I could give any new staff, or even like new psych graduates, whatever, if I can give them any advice in their career, it is this: slow down. Slow down. Because the way communication works, it is unreal how words, we say words, but then we say words quickly. Or, you know, our actions will betray our true feelings, our body language. And, you know, here's some interesting statistics here. So 70% of our communication is done through body language. 70% of the message that we are sending is through our body language. 23% is our tone, rate, and volume, meaning how we speak to people. 7% is the actual words spoken. And I've been there, and I'm sure I've been there. I've been with people who've done it. Heck, I've been the person that has been this way. But I don't know if you've ever been around someone who, you know, God love them and all that, but they're just stressed. Their voice, their mannerisms, all that, just like you're around them and you're stressed because they're very high energy, or they're just very stressed. And that translates and that kind of transfers to other people. So, you know, when we have a staff, or we have like a person and there's a child in distress, and they're like, you need to calm down. It's like, no, you do. Because it's only making the situation worse. Or you'll have a situation where a child is in distress and you have an adult hovering over them, just standing over them. And I'm sure the intention's fine. It's not that anyone's ill intent, but when you do that, your body language is telling them that, like, you know, I'm trying to, like, you know, domineer you, or I'm over you. And it sends the wrong message, as opposed to taking a knee, as opposed to sitting, as opposed to, you know, slowing down your language. And then I'm a big fan of emphasizing choice and agency. I know that there's a big theory out there about, you know, the difference between determinism and free will. Listen, that's a bit above my pay grade as far as like what the true answer to all that is. However, what I do believe in is that, you know, if you can't change your fate, change your attitude. And I am a big fan of empowering students, or empowering individuals, that they have a choice. And when at all possible, I will make sure that they have that option. They have that choice. They have that ability to shape their own fate. It might be something like, you know, in a work situation or in a classroom situation, maybe schoolwork is something they need to do. Maybe it's just not an option to do something else, but they can have a choice of whether to do math or English. And you know what? Maybe if math is the only option available, they can have a choice to do it at their desk or the table. You know, there's always something that can be done. And, you know, when I work with children, when I work with my daughter, you know, I usually will say to them, what are your options? Get them to think about it. Or again, depending on their age and depending on where they're at in life, you know, I may present options to them. But, you know, generally speaking, the older the child gets, the more I like to open their world. But here's a disclaimer. You don't want to give too much choice. That's stressful. I don't know if anyone's ever been to like now McDonald's or any of those other places where, you know, they have the Coke machine. It's the Coke machine. And it's like silver or it's like red. It's this really bright, obnoxious color. And right in the middle is this like screen. And you walk up and you touch the screen. You're like, okay, I didn't realize there was a blueberry flavor of Coke. There's a lot here. And it just gets stressful because it's like, depending on where you go, it's like you just touch the button and the entire screen is filled with options. And it's like, I just want to drink. Where's the water button? You know, and the water button's usually way in the, you know, bottom corner or things of that nature. But usually then when you start narrowing, they thankfully they give you the option to like narrow the options down in the bottom. Like you want all of them, caffeine free, you know, low calorie, cool. But the point is that, you know, 2 or 3 tops, depending on the child. Don't like, you could do this, and this, and this. Now all of a sudden they're just stressed about something else entirely. But, you know, yeah, I like the Coke machines, don't get me wrong, but wow, first time I encountered that, whoa. But here's another one. Listen. I'm not kidding. Listen. Even if the child doesn't speak, their behavior is communication. Even if they can't say a word to you, they are talking to you. They are communicating to you. Listen, watch them. See what they're doing. And, you know, I cannot tell you how many times in my personal life, in professional life, that I have taken either an adult or a child and who is on the brink and so aggravated, ready to start swinging. And just listen. Just hear them out. Talk real slow. Don't judge them. Just let them talk. And you know, just because you validate somebody's feelings doesn't mean you agree with them. And I think that's important, is like, you know, what I'm trying to do is figure out where you're coming from. And, you know, again, I may not agree with where they're coming from. Maybe their basis is off or things of that nature. But at that point, it's not about being right at that point. It's about being heard. And I think a lot of children miss that opportunity to be heard. And again, I say it to people at work, but you know, I'll say it out here. If anyone has ever been listened to by somebody, they know just how impactful that is, how much value that throws out there as far as listening is concerned. So take the time to listen. Just because if you're talking, you're not listening. And please, if you're listening, don't think about what you're going to say. You know, just think about what they're saying. But you know, I've gotten pretty good at that, where as far as, you know, you're paraphrasing, you know, making sure you're checking, because again, when they say a concept to you and then you're like, okay, so what I'm hearing is this, this, and this. It's an option for them to say, yes, that's right. And now they feel heard. Or they can say, no, it's not. And you can say, okay, explain it again to me. And, you know, that's where, you know, questions really help with that process. So listen. And again, even if the child cannot talk, it's important to take in what they're doing. So one of my favorite quotes, it's a recent quote too, but when little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm, not join their chaos. And how many times again, and we talk about, let's go back to that adult or that person in your life that, you know, you go to when things are tough or challenging. Chances are they're sharing their calm with you. And more recent trauma research is showing that, you know, the presence of a calm, collected adult is very soothing to a child in crisis, or just a child who's upset. They may not, it might not be like an instant cure where they're okay and they're feeling better, but the fact that they can see someone, and what I view it as an anchor. I kind of view it, it's like my visualization is I'm kind of the port in the storm, the anchor in the storm. I'm the guy that you can look at and I'm calm and I'm not judging you and I'm here and you're safe and I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. And, you know, everything's going to be okay. And I'm proving that to you because I'm standing here or I'm sitting here and I'm not shaken by what's happening to you. And, you know, that, you know, like I said, my, you know, in the interest of preserving, you know, my daughter, but like, you know, she's been through some stuff and, you know, like we worked through a lot. And I can't tell you how many times I did the anchor thing where I just let her fall apart and stay there with her. You know, she wasn't in danger, so I didn't need to intervene. And I just stayed there. And I was a calm person in the midst of it all. So that's why I say safer, making a situation safer, because that requires us to constantly be adjusting what we're doing. Because, I mean, I don't care if somebody is, you know, and I'm talking like even, it doesn't matter. Like it could be a very calm situation where you're just making it safer. You know, you're sharing a positive moment, you're smiling, you're contributing to the overall positivity, which is great. You know, you also could have on the other end of the spectrum where, you know, the child is escalated and is on the verge of maybe doing something dangerous. Even then though, you know, making it safer. How am I adjusting my body language? Is my body language provoking or is my body language soothing? Is my tone provoking? Is it soothing? Because if somebody is screaming at you, the temptation is to follow with that, is to kind of bring up to their level. But if you're aware of that and you're like, nope, not going to do it. They're yelling at me. They're upset. And it's my job to be calm. And it's my job to show them another way, a better way. Then, you know, the opposite happens. I don't know if anyone's ever done it to you, but if you're in an argument or you're really upset and then they disarm you with a question where it's like, oh, I didn't know you were feeling that way. Tell me more. Now you're like, okay, guess I can't be mad anymore. You know, so it's one of those things where that's why I'm saying safer. Make the situation safer. Number 2, identify the function of the behavior. Now, I will say this, that there are, again, I'm a Bureau of Autism trainer and functional behavior assessments. Listen, there are entire trainings on this. The state is a 13-hour training on this. There are entire courses and certifications and degrees centered around this idea, okay? So we could spend a lot of time on this topic, but I want to simplify it for you. And really, first, all behavior is functional, meaning that people do things for a reason. Now, notice I didn't say all behavior is rational. That's not always the case. But rational or not, behavior serves a purpose. And so the question you should ask yourself, well, and then also too, it's their best attempt at being successful. It's what has worked for them at this point, or maybe they think works for them. And I'll be honest, like in my career, you know, it's funny because when someone says I've seen everything, the next day you see something new. And, you know, it's always just something like that. But I cannot tell you how many times I have seen children, you know, engage in behaviors where I'm just like, well done. That was pretty impressive. I mean, totally inappropriate, but wow, that was good. Okay. You know, I learn all the time because again, like our children, the children we work with, or the population we serve, they know how to get their needs met. But my question is, what are they trying to achieve? And is there a better way to teach it? That's what I'm talking about when I say consider that function, identify the function of the behavior. You know, again, there is an entire functional behavior process that, you know, that has a systematic approach to things. And you know, I teach it, I use it, I oversee it at work. I respect it entirely. there's also what I consider like function-based intervention or function-based thinking, because I'm conducting like mini FBAs in my head all the time when I'm working with students, where I'm just like, okay, so I'm seeing this right now. Okay, based off of the variables I'm seeing, I'm hypothesizing very quickly that this might be for attention. I'm going to adjust myself. I'm going to turn real quick and see what happens. And I'm doing all those things where, again, it's this idea of what are they trying to get? And then on top of that, is there a better way to teach it where it's more appropriate, where maybe it's less convoluted? Because again, maybe the child has learned a sequence of things and that's how they get their needs met. But if we can teach them just to say the word or to point or to sign or to whatever, is there a better way to do it? So this is where, and now I understand at this point, we've been talking for a while, so now I inject a little bit of excitement into it. So feel free in this next one to like be a little like, whoa, but here's where the concepts link, because whoa, oh wait, here it comes. Ta-da! Felt safety and function can meet together. And there are two phrases I use all the time, and take them, they're free, because if more people are using them, I think it's better. But one, here's what I like to do. I want to help you. When I interact with students and I see that they're trying something, and maybe I see, I want to help you. Talk about disarming. Because my thing is, when you talk about felt safety, or if you're walking to a child who's verbal, or a child that can communicate with like a communication device or something, and you sit down and say, what do you want? Yes, that makes sense. Yes, I understand that. But if a child's in crisis and you're like, well, I don't know what you want. What do you want? It doesn't really communicate your intentions to the child. It just communicates that you're confused. So what I like to do is I like to start off with this, is I want to help you, so that they understand when I'm coming to them that as an adult, as a professional, as a father or whatever, I'm here to help. And I want to be part of the solution for you. Here's the next one, and I borrowed it from Karen Purvis, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind. But there it is. I gave her the credit. Here's another one. Let me help you do this right. Because again, it's this idea of, and I've had this happen where I've had, students that I've worked with, they'll say, I want this, and I'll go, me too. And that's like instantly, like they're like, wait, what? Like, yeah, me too. I want you to do that too. Let me help you do it right. Let me teach you the correct way to do it, so that you can still earn your privileges and, have a pleasant day and get what you want. I just want to help you do this right. You'd be amazed at how quickly children are like, oh, okay, I'm here for you. But again, going back to that idea of how can you meet a child's function, or how can you teach them the function to a behavior, or teach them a better way if they don't trust you, if they don't feel safe with you, if they don't feel like you are centered, you are in control, that you care about them. Those two phrases there are meaningless to them. They're going to be like, well, I don't know you, I don't trust you, I don't expect anything from you. But if you have that relationship, if you've established that sense of felt safety, when a child now, when you say to them, I want to help you, it's like, oh, okay, I believe you. And then they let you. And that's such a gift when you have a child that drops their guard and lets them help you. So that's the function. Here's a third one. And it's not something that's maybe not discussed a lot, but honestly, when I bring up this point, you're all going to be like, yeah, of course. That's absolutely. But here it is, the third one. Preserve the dignity of the individual. So, I think effective staff build trust by making a situation safer, by correctly identifying what the function of the behavior is. And again, that's not just talking about behaviors of concern. What if you have a child in like an innocent setting where they're like, maybe they're doing math and there's an easier way to do it. And you said, let me help you. Let me help you. Let me find an easier way. But then preserving the dignity of the individual, which sometimes gets lost. And I think it's important especially as, you know, if I'm talking to mostly professionals, but even to the parents in the, you know, in the session, that it's important that we as professionals convey that the dignity of these children matter to us, and that we are going to treat them with respect. We're going to value them. We're going to, you know, make sure that, you know, we don't erode any sense. We don't introduce any shame into this process. And so you got to consider the timing with which you address things. I really do, because, you know, it's this concept of face, where if you address a behavior with a child in front of his peers, chances are you might have had a good point, but depending on the nature of the behavior and depending on the nature of the correction, that child may now be trying to save some face and gain a reputation. You know, there was a principal in Kansas, and I'll never forget it. When I was in training, she added this to the whole thing. She said, children would rather appear tough than dumb. Children would rather appear like they are, you know, tough, rugged, than appear like they're foolish or dumb. And so it's important that we don't shame them or address them and put them in a situation where they have to dig their heels in, because now you just have another battle entirely. And now it's just principle. And I'm sure we've all been in those situations too, where, you know, we've been called out, or, you know, like we've been embarrassed, and we, you know, kind of, we double down on our point rather than back up because we're embarrassed, not because maybe they are making better points, but at that point it doesn't matter, because I'm feeling something and I need to make it better. So when you shame someone, and I'm not talking about intentionally, you know, like I know that these things, I know that, you know, well-intentioned people interact, but sometimes have the opposite effect. But that erodes any sense of felt safety. And it's this idea of, you know, do you take the child out? Like, do you take the child to the side and talk to them? If you have something private to discuss it in a private area. When I worked in partial and I was a classroom therapist, I had signals for my kids. And so, because I would discuss coping skills, and I would tell them that it's important to do coping skills before you're really upset, because, you know, coping skills are when you're here, not here, because you're not, you know, you got a lot more room to work with. So what I would do is, when I would talk to them privately, I would give I would tell them, look, you know, if I look at you and give you, like, one kid I had, and then point. I would just sit at my desk, point. He knew that I was seeing something in him. He knew that an antecedent or a trigger was coming, and that it was time to start doing his coping skills. Contrast that with, hey, don't forget to cope, count to 10. You can tell me where to count to 10. I'm telling you what's going to happen right there. So that's what I'm talking about, is make sure we're preserving dignity. Or again, let's say you have a child who is having a tantrum. Maybe they're young, maybe they're old, but do their peers really need to see that? You know, so again, is it a situation where, you know, maybe give them some privacy, have the students leave? Or again, if you have a good relationship with the child, get them to get up and walk out with you, so that they can, you know, so they can fall apart in private. It's those little things that communicate that you care. And that's what I'm going, and this is what I always go with, is when I work with children, you know, my current job at the Graham Academy, or just in general, is this how I want my child treated? What I'm about to do and what I'm about to say, is this how I would want my child to be treated? Because chances are, all the time the answer is yes, but at the same time, I think it's a good check for us. Because it's like, well, you know, if you have to think about it, it's probably not, you probably shouldn't say it, or you probably shouldn't do it. And, you know, it's that idea of when the child learns, because like if we tell them that we're safe people, if we tell them that they can trust us, if we tell them we're doing all these things, but then our actions communicate something different, where we're shaming them, or we're doing, and again, unintentionally, but if we're eroding that trust, then we're not communicating that we're safe people. And we're not going to give a sense of felt safety. We're actually going to be like, oh, I hope he doesn't embarrass me again. I hope he doesn't do that, which is not what you want. And then, again, your action should communicate, I care about you. And that's the crux of it, is, again, is what we're doing, or is how we're treating the child preserving their dignity? And, I take it even on the other end of the spectrum. What if you have a child with reactive attachment disorder? Classically, if you call them out and praise them in front of everyone, you are in for something. Usually they don't do well with praise, typically public praise, especially. So again, it's all about that, going through the lens of dignity. And when you're interacting with children, it's like, how am I upholding them? How am I showing them that they're valuable? How am I showing them that they matter to me? So really, I would say, any profession, this is something I work on every day. This is something I try to perfect and hone every single day, on top of the other stuff that I work with. But again, in my interactions and in everything that happens, one, I think that effective staff, in a practical way to think things through, is say to yourself, I'm going to make this situation safer. How am I doing that? How am I making the situation safer? And then two, looking at, okay, now what are they trying to do? What are they trying to achieve? And how can I help them do it right? Because even if you have a child who is nonverbal and maybe the language is yet to emerge in any form, if you're thinking that, even if you have that thought process of, I'm going to help them do this right, or I'm going to help them, that's still a much better productive, it's a much more productive thought process than, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So, it's that whole empowering piece. And then again, showing that our walk and our talk match by preserving the dignity of the individual, and making sure that our actions let them know that it matters to them. And whether a child is aware of their own dignity or not, whether a child is personally aware, is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned, because it's one of those things where, yes, there might be children who have no concept of their own dignity or things of that nature. That doesn't mean I'm not going to uphold it either, though. I'm going to make sure that they are treated with respect, they're valued, and that they're treated like a human being. So again, we preserve we preserve the dignity of the individual. Now, right on target. So here we are. Here's some resources that I suggest reviewing. Again, I'm a big fan of The Connected Child by Dr. Karen Purvis. I don't know if any of you have heard of her, but she's big in the adoption world. She's been she really changed, it's not that she like completely transformed the way I was thinking, but she really put some concepts to what I was thinking. She put words to what I was thinking in my head, and had really good points that I think, regardless of the population of students you work with, the mindset and the attitudes that she conveys is very valuable reading. Again, I'll plug Safe Crisis Management by JKM Training. I'm a trainer. And I don't know how many of you are certified or know Safe Crisis Management. What I'd encourage you, though, is that, the curriculum itself is very robust. And if you have a trainer and you think that, like all that stuff that I just talked about is touched upon in some way in the curriculum. So if you're not being taught that way, talk to your trainer, challenge your trainer. But, there's a lot of concepts there that make effective staff. Again, if you want to explore the whole FBA training and you don't want to, go to college or things of that nature, the Bureau of Autism has the functional behavior assessment training. And from my understanding, I got an email not too long ago, I believe it's all virtual now. And, I know they're moving in that direction too, where you actually don't need me as a trainer, I'm going to be obsolete soon, where it's all going to be, through the state. But hey, whatever, I got the paper. And then the other thing is that reflect. I think that one of the strengths of this field, that, one of the fringe benefits of the field, I should say, is that it forces you to be a better person. Is that people that don't reflect or don't grow don't last long in the field. And I think that every day and every opportunity is a chance to be better. And, it's that idea of gradual improvements. If we are 1% better each day, we are going to be radically different in 100 days. And, one of my mentors in Safe Crisis Management, he would always say, he had asked two questions at the end of every shift. And he would say, did the children get hurt? No. Did you get hurt? No, it was a good day. No matter how things were, no matter how crazy things were, you'd always go back to, did anyone get hurt? Then it's a good day. But again, understand that we don't just like pop out of school, or we don't just like, some days we're on point, other days, a lot of misses. Life is difficult, and working with other human beings is challenging, and it's something that people can't appreciate unless they're actually in the field and working with it. So it's one of those things where it's like, we only understand it. We only have each other at this point. But again, if we're every day, if we can take something away from what we did with the students, and we can learn and let them teach us too. Again, I think it's one of those things where you'll see a dramatic change in yourself over time. So that is my thing. I am 2 minutes over, but there it is. Turn it over to questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody.
Great. Jason, that was great. Well, while we give everyone a chance to have their questions in there, I do know that Karen, her last name is Franz Fry from Wilkes University, was asking about the PowerPoint being available. But just to answer that for everyone, we will be posting this webinar. We'll be posting it on our Facebook page. And for those of you that don't follow that, in just a few minutes, I'll give you all of that information for our Facebook pages and contact information, so that you'll be able to access. Everyone's telling you did a great job. I don't know if you see that in the chat box. For myself, I really liked that. I liked your whole presentation. Obviously, I really liked the part when you talked about preserving the dignity of these students. And it's just such an important piece. And we know that, teachers are so busy throughout the day, and it's kind of so much easier to be like, hey, knock it off, and really to establish that, rapport and, build in those cues is just so important for that trust piece. Congrats on the baby.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a girl. So,
oh, so exciting.
I'm outnumbered, but that's okay.
Okay, so we do have a question. Do you have any strategies when having trouble building rapport with a child who is nonverbal?
Play with them, spend time with them. I think that that's important. And again, I think the other piece though is that you have some children who are nonverbal where they might want to be by themselves. So like play with them as they tolerate it, but I'd exit as they're going. But I think, to be honest with you, as long as your interactions with them are meaningful and frequent, I think you'll build rapport with them. It doesn't have to be like this long drawn out thing, but as long as you are speaking kindly to them, smiling at them, praising them, even if it's like moving in, moving out, that kind of thing. I would just spend time with them when they're playing. Yeah.
That's great advice. And I think that's what I really liked about your presentation. I feel like you made it all easy. Like it all, it's not that complicated. Just spending the time and building up that trust is really what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to take away from, the training required for professionals.
Sure, absolutely.
But yeah, the basic concepts of, human interactions is not difficult.
Right.
I think it's one of those things where if you give respect, you'll get it back.
Right.
And if you value someone, they'll know that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see. My son is 12 and still having meltdowns when he doesn't get his way. It's so hard for me to stay calm all the time. Sometimes I ignore, but others, we are just in a screaming match. Is it best to just ignore all the time?
So couple things there. I don't know if you have, I don't know your home situation, if you have like a husband or a partner to tag team with. Sometimes it's good to, if you're getting upset, to back out, like let like your husband or your partner take over in that regard. However, if that is not an option, I've done this with my daughter. I do this, a lot of times where if I feel like I'm getting angry, I talk about the elephant in the room. So for instance, I'll say to my daughter, I'm getting angry right now. I'm getting frustrated. I said, I am going to walk away right now and I'm going to calm down. I said, I'll come back when I'm calm and we'll revisit this. And, you know, I think it's not a sign of weakness to admit when you're angry. It's when and we've all been there. We've all been there, but I think when we bring it down to their level, and Karen Purvis actually talks about this, when we argue with a child, we're actually telling them that they're our equals. And, you know, please don't take that the wrong way, but but in the sense of like that they have just as much control over the situation as we do. And then again, that whole concept of felt safety is eroded, because now it's like, oh, wait a minute, I have the steering wheel now. Oh, wait, this is scary. I don't know what I want to do here. So I would again call out the emotions you're feeling and tell them that this is what I'm going to do differently. I don't think it's not a weakness to admit when you're angry, because you're showing them that I'm not going to get into this and I'm going to walk away. Now, I will tell my daughter that, you know, if, you know, and she's respected it. I'm like, if you choose to press the issue, I am going to administer a consequence, which may not be fair. And I'm trying to be fair to you. So yeah, that's my thing, is call it out and then walk away.
Yeah. That same parent said, yeah, I'm getting mad at him to express his feelings, but I will try to walk away. Great. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy when you're frustrated.
The other thing too, if I could put it out there, is instead of getting him to express his feelings and telling him to, tell him where you're at. Say, hey, okay, you know, this is the way you're managing. If you're having difficulty, I'm over here and I'll help you. Because some people clam up. I'm that way, where if somebody's pushing me to express my feelings, I tend to clam up more, because I'm just like, not ready yet. I'm not ready to talk. So that's just another suggestion too, is just let him know when you'll be available.
Right. Good. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any more in the chat box.
Oh, and by the way, Kim, thank you for saying what every person deals with, but no one wants to admit. You know, we all want to think that, yeah, you know, we've all got it together and all that, but thank you for having the courage to admit what we all do, you know, because we're not perfect. So, you know, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions? Okay. I'm going to quickly just share my screen real quick, just because I want to make sure everyone has access to this information. So these are our Facebook pages. The first one is for educators, paraprofessionals, any related service providers. We have created this group. It's the Autism Educators Support Alliance group. We have this Facebook page, and this is really a forum that we have for these educators that we are going to be meeting twice a month. And we're going to be discussing, you know, different issues from, you know, distance learning to, you know, behavioral issues, and just to have a collaboration amongst teachers. So if you are in that place, if you would like to go to our Facebook page and like that page, that'd be great. And that's where we'll be having more of these webinars that are focused for educators posted. I also have both the Hazleton Autism Hub and the Autism Center at Misericordia. These are our Facebook pages. We will also be posting this webinar there. This is my email address, khoffman@Misericordia, and also Sandra Kirchner's. And again, she's the director of the Hazleton Autism Hub if you have any questions. And if you are going to join that Autism Educators Support Alliance group, our first discussion groups are going to be held next week. Early Childhood Elementary, June 15th from 6 to 7, and Middle and High School, June 16th from 6 to 7. And that's where we're going to kind of begin our discussions and see where they go from there. So I will leave that up for just a minute. Just so people can copy that down. And if you have any questions, you know, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Let me go back to this. And I don't see any other questions, but Jason, I really do appreciate you taking the time. I think what you talked about was just so important, and it gave us everyone a lot of really good information that they can take back and use right away. So we really appreciate you.
It was a pleasure to be here, and again, I'm always learning, and like I said, the students push me to be better. So it's a pleasure.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Good night, everyone.
Night.